1,000 survivors and their families.
Welcome to Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Lydia Loveless. Tonight we have with us the Liberal candidate for the upcoming provincial election on October 14th, Premier John Hogan. It's going to be a great show. Stay tuned.
At Rogers TV, we know our community thrives because of the incredible people who support it. Today, we want to extend a heartfelt thank you to all our amazing volunteers. Your hard work, dedication, and passion make our productions possible, bringing local stories and events to life for everyone to enjoy. Whether you're behind the camera, in the control room, or helping at events, your contributions are invaluable. Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Get in touch with us using our viewer feedback line, your direct connection to shaping the shows you love. It's easy. Just grab your phone, scan the QR code on your screen, and take our quick survey. Share your thoughts, and let's make your viewing experience even better.
Welcome to Out of the Fog. I'm your host, Lori Loveless, and tonight we have with us a Liberal candidate for the upcoming provincial election on October 14th. And today I'm with Premier Hogan. So welcome, Premier.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so been Premier for a few months now, and it's the best job in the world, being Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador. But I grew up in St. John's. My roots for my parents were on the West Coast in Deer Lake and Corner Brook. Here now raising my two little kids, my wife Jill, Maggie, she's 8 years old, and Jack is 3. So, you know, they're the most important things to me. But having entered in politics now for the past 4 years, as I said, it's been a tremendous opportunity. Really look forward to the election and looking forward to the voters getting out and supporting the Liberal government on October 14th.
Excellent. So we have a few questions, so we're just going to get right into it. So first, we're going to start with the Churchill Falls and hydro development. This election comes at a pivotal moment for the future of the Churchill Falls and hydro development in Labrador. The MOU currently on the table is being described as a $225 billion agreement, but opinions are divided on whether it should be finalized as where it stands, renegotiated, or put to a vote. Where do you stand, and how will you ensure the benefits are shared fairly within the province?
Yeah, so I'm extremely supportive of this MOU. As I've told people over the past few weeks on the campaign trail, that is a great backbone for a new deal on the Churchill River. And you used the word pivotal, and that's absolutely where we are in Newfoundland and Labrador right now. This is a pivotal moment. We've been screaming from the rooftop since 1969 about how unfair that deal is on the Churchill River with Quebec. And we all know it's unfair, and Quebec has acknowledged it's unfair. So what's the opportunity now is to end that deal early, and 17 years early, and not have to wait until 2041 to get the revenue that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians deserve from our resource, as you said, in Labrador. So I support the MOU. It is a great deal that's on the table. It's a great moment for Newfoundland and Labrador. But as you said too, there's still some work to do. We need to finalize this agreement. This memorandum is the backbone of a good deal. But we need to make sure that when we negotiate the final deals, the final agreements, to make sure that we get what we deserve and this resource with our partners from Quebec, that we get the absolute best deal possible. And I've had a lot of experience in hydroelectric deals. I sat through the Muskrat Falls Inquiry as counsel for all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. I was part of the team that negotiated the MOU. So I think the Liberal Party is the right party to make sure that we do deliver a final deal that does what Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want, which is to get a fair market price for the power that's developed in Labrador and sold not only to Quebec but to other parts of North America.
Excellent. So next we're moving on to healthcare. So healthcare is one of the most pressing concerns in our province. Families are coping with a shortage of doctors, long wait times, and rural areas are without reliable access to basic services. Seniors are asking for dignity and proper support, while there is an increasing demand for stronger mental health care. Yet, you know, with the staffing shortages, rising costs, and wait times, what specific actions will you and your party take to improve accessible health care in Newfoundland and Labrador?
So I think what I've been saying is we're so fortunate we live in a country where we have access to free healthcare. We don't have to pay for it. We don't have to go through insurance companies. We all sort of chip in and make sure that healthcare is available for all Canadians. That includes here in Newfoundland and Labrador. But we need to make sure that it's good quality healthcare and that it's accessible to everybody, as you mentioned, in rural and remote parts of the province, and to seniors. So we did create Health Accord NL, which really everyone in the province has agreed is the right document going forward. But we're starting over. We're tearing down the old system, which was built decades ago, and creating a new one. So that takes some time. So there are going to be some frustrations and bumps in the road as we try to continue to improve healthcare. But we're off to a good start. We've created family care teams. 110,000 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians are now part of the teams. That's almost 20% of our population in just a couple of short years. We've integrated our road and air ambulance system very recently. So if someone has an emergency in a rural and remote part of the province, they do need access to that emergency care right away because every minute matters. We have decreased diversions that existed at emergency rooms and hospitals in this province, but we still have more work to do, a lot of work to do. And as you said, for example, seniors in certain parts of the province, we announced a couple of weeks ago, they might not be able to go to access healthcare. So we'll create mobile healthcare teams to go where they are so that if they can't access healthcare, healthcare can access them. So again, still a lot of work to do. But I think that this government is on the right direction, right trajectory. We're doing more surgeries now than we ever did before. We're seeing more patients than we ever did before, but we need to keep working at it because it is the most important thing to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Absolutely. So next we're going to move on with mental health and addiction. So Newfoundland and Labrador has the highest rate of poor mental health in the country, with the highest rate of self-harm, and is experiencing rising deaths linked to drug toxicities. Experts say our mental health strategy is outdated. What will you do to modernize services, expand access, and to ensure people in crisis receive timely, effective help?
So I think the first thing is to recognize that mental health is health. We shouldn't distinguish between physical health and mental health. One's not more important than the other. They're both important. We talk about in Health Accord NL the social determinants of health and well-being, and that is all part of our health as Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. I think we've come a long way just even in the past few years about talking and addressing mental health. There's probably still a stigma there, but that stigma is being removed, and that's important to keep talking about it. This government has built a new mental health and addictions facility, so thankfully that is there and up and running, and everybody says what a great asset that is to treat people with mental health and addictions issues in our province, but we still need to do more. We need to make sure that people have the available treatment when it's necessary. We need to know that people who have addictions and want treatment, that those facilities and services are there for them. So let's not pretend that we don't have work to do, but let's make sure we do the work and that it's available for everybody in this province.
Excellent. So next we're going to address affordability and cost of living. So affordability has become a daily struggle for many, from housing, food, to fuel, to rising tuitions. So according to the 2024 data, about 50,000 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians live below the poverty line. What steps will you and your party take to make sure that they are able to bring down everyday costs, tackle poverty, and to ensure that workers can earn a living wage?
So I think affordability is a top 2 or 3 issue, not only in this province, but in this country. I mean, we have looked back at COVID and how it's affected supply chains, but that was 4 or 5 years ago now, and we still need to continue to work to make sure we keep costs down, and certainly where government can play a role in that. Recently, we announced that we would take off the provincial portion of the tax on people's electricity bills, which is not insignificant. It could be, thousands of dollars a year for some people, which will help. You talk about families and affordability. We're going to take away the cost of school supplies for kids in kindergarten to grade 6, because parents who send their kids to school shouldn't worry about the cost of sending them to school. That's a responsibility that all of us need to take to make sure our children have the best education possible, so they can then grow and be leaders in our province. And as you said, seniors are so important as well, and they face the cost of living increases as well, and some of them have fixed incomes. So we've increased the threshold for people who are available now to get the seniors benefit and increased that seniors benefit as well. So that's just some of the measures we've taken and announced over the past 3 weeks, and I think those are priorities for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and they'll be a priority for us going forward.
Absolutely. So next we're going to address housing. So housing has reached crisis levels. In 2024, more than 20% of households in the province were facing housing insecurity due to affordability, adequacy, and suitability. Rents are climbing, and affordable housing is especially difficult to find for students and young families. What concrete measures will you take to expand affordable housing, and what long-term solutions will you put in place to address homelessness?
So, again, I think one of the things that we looked at over the past few weeks is making sure that land is available in this province. It's our land, it's Crown land.
Yes.
The government shouldn't be holding restrictions on who can access that. I think we need to make more of that available for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. So that's there for contractors and developers to build houses and build homes for people in this province. Working with municipalities as well, I've had conversations with them over the past few weeks that they feel a bit frustrated that when they want to build and grow their communities and people want to move to their communities, they're being a bit hamstrung by slow bureaucratic processes in government. So that's just one example, I think, of something we need to work on, and we need to work with developers, builders, and communities to make sure that housing is available, people can build. We have more people here than we had a few years ago. We need to make sure they have somewhere to live and be safe in their communities.
Excellent. Speaking about that, we're going to discuss the economy and jobs. So beyond hydro and oil, people are asking what the future of Newfoundland and Labrador's economy will look like. So what is your vision for building long-term prosperity, diversifying our industries, and ensuring that good jobs are available for not only St. John's, but all other areas in our province?
So that jobs drive the economy. I mean, if everybody can have access to good employment, good jobs, and good careers here in Newfoundland and Labrador, it's money in their pockets, it grows our economy, it's more revenue for the government as well through taxes, which just means we all prosper. So that is a goal that we have to continue to focus on. We've had an oil industry here that's been a driver of our economy for decades. I mean, you know, we had such a tremendous opportunity with our cod fishery. Unfortunately, we had the moratorium, but we quickly moved into developing the oil and gas industry. I mean, we were pretty clever and smart to figure that out. And now, of course, we have opportunity on Churchill Falls, which will bring 10,000 jobs. 10,000 jobs for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. But as we continue to look at our oil industry in Beta Nord, which is continued economic growth, and it's not just for people in St. John's, it's for people all over Newfoundland and Labrador. And look at other opportunities as well, like our hydrogen and wind development. I mean, we have so much to offer in terms of good, clean, green, new energy, not only for the country, but for the world. Prime Minister Carney was here a few weeks ago, and you know, he couldn't be happier with the opportunities that Newfoundland and Labrador offer Canada.
Oh, that's great. So next we're going to discuss education and youth with post-secondary education costs. So education is the foundation of our future. So parents want investments in schools, teachers, and technology, while students are concerned about debt and affordability. At the same time, youth out-migration remains a serious challenge. So what is your plan to make post-secondary education more affordable, and how will you ensure young people see a future for themselves here?
Yeah, so the most important resource we have is our children and our future. As I said, I have an 8-year-old who's in the school system right now and a 3-year-old who will be in the school system next September. So I know what a priority is. I know how important it is. I was so fortunate that I had parents that taught me education was important. I was lucky enough to attend Memorial University and really start my career. And you know, whether it's Memorial or College of the North Atlantic or trade schools, we need to make sure that children here have an opportunity for a future in this province. And education is the key to that. Because without education, people aren't broadening their scope, people aren't expanding their skills, their knowledge base and their ability to work here in Newfoundland and Labrador, but the proper education with the good jobs that they deserve. So education absolutely is a key plank. Our last budget put a lot of money, tens of millions of dollars into education, with another $44 million next year. So I think you can see that this government will and has prioritized education in this province.
Excellent. So next we're going to address public safety, seniors, and vulnerable populations. So community safety is becoming a growing concern. Urban areas are facing increases in crime, drug-related activities, and violence, while rural areas often lack policing and emergency response. What is your plan to strengthen public safety, improve policing, and crime prevention, and of course to address root causes like poverty, addiction, and lack of opportunity?
Yep. So a few things on that. I mean, I was Minister of Public Safety for a few years, and you know, it's not just now we've heard about public safety issues. So I look back on when we started hearing about it a few years ago, and you know, I think we were clever enough to come up with our police working transformation group to look at delivering modern policing in Newfoundland and Labrador and what that looks like. And thankfully, they've come back with some recommendations, one of which we've already implemented, which is the addition and the creation of special constables here at the RNC. in our province. So that will allow our RNC officers to continue to do the complex policing work and not necessarily the less complex work that's required for policing services. So that already expands the ability of police to get out in the community and to do that serious police work. We have a number of individuals who just graduated from the Police Academy and PEI coming here. We have a group going right now, and we have another group going in January. So that will increase the number of RNC members, and we need to continue to work with the RCMP. That one is a little bit more of a struggle because we fund part of the RCMP here in the province along with our federal counterparts. But we don't have control of how the members get here to this province. So we need to continue to push hard the federal government to make sure that we get our fair share of RCM members here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Correct. And at the same time, many residents feel left behind. So this could be seniors, people with living disabilities, and vulnerable due to poverty or homelessness. Seniors want dignity, affordability, and reliable care, and people with disabilities continue to face barriers to housing, employment, and health services. So what concrete supports will you put in place to ensure that these groups can live with safety, dignity, and independence?
So as we talk about seniors, I've spoken to a lot of seniors over the past few months.
Yes.
And what I say to them is, they've built this province, they've built their communities, they've lived there in their lives, they've raised their children, they've worked, they've contributed everything they could to the growth of Newfoundland and Labrador. And now it's their time to retire, and they want to stay in their own communities, they want to stay in their own homes, and we need to make sure that's possible for them. They've done a lot for us, and now we owe it back to seniors. With regards to people with disability, we've committed to the creation of a disability advocate. We've seen it work with our seniors advocate, and she has done great work in talking about what's important for seniors. She's really a voice and an ear for seniors to talk to, and then she can sort of funnel all that information into us. Some of the recommendations she's made, I think we've implemented, and I don't anticipate that'll be any different when we have a disability advocate. Because when we look at Newfoundland and Labrador, and we look at this province, I think the most important thing is fairness. Everybody deserves that equal treatment, equal ability to participate in our society. And if there are barriers that exist for whatever reason, those are barriers we need to take down.
Excellent. So next we're going to address climate and environment. So this past summer, Newfoundland Labrador faced devastating wildfires, of course, and last winter was among the mildest on record. So climate change is already reshaping our province. What steps will you take to address the impacts of climate change, protect communities, and to ensure that resource development is balanced with environmental sustainability?
Yep. So as you said, this was a difficult summer.
Yes.
For a lot of
You were
people in
quite
this
busy.
province. I was very busy, but my job was to just relay information to people that were affected all over the island with regards to wildfires in their communities. And what I certainly learned in talking to people was that they appreciated having that information. They know that the fires can't go out overnight. It was going to take some time. It was their communities, it was their homes, it was their schools, their post offices. They wanted to know the status. So we just made sure that we wanted to communicate, and I think communication is a priority in any emergency situation.
Absolutely.
But then having been through that, and I want to thank all the firefighters and volunteers and staff and pilots and dispatchers. So many people put in an effort, and at the end of the day, no lives were lost. A number of structures were lost, but a number of structures were saved, and we'll certainly work to rebuild those communities. But what are we doing as a government? It does give me another opportunity to talk about Churchill Falls. This is a green project. We are moving away from oil in this world, and if we are going to move away from it as a global society, Newfoundland and Labrador can and should do its part. So let's not only develop Churchill Falls because it means a lot of money for us as a province, it means a lot of jobs, it means a lot of opportunities, but it means green energy for the province and for the country and for the world. So for that reason, it's also the right thing to do.
Excellent. And so we're going to also address provincial debt. So Newfoundland and Labrador's net debt is projected at $19 billion for the 2025-2026 fiscal, nearly 45% of our GDP. What is your plan to reduce the province's debt load while still making investments needed in services and economic growth?
So we do always have to look after services for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, but that does cost money. We have a very large geographical province with not a lot of people per square kilometre, and not only that, people are spread around the island and parts of Labrador as well on the coastal areas because that's where we grew up on the fishery, and that's where we still are.
Yes.
There's a lot of roads, there's a lot of bridges, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of ferries, and we need to pay for that. And we should pay for that. This is where Newfoundlanders and Labradorians live, and the services need to be where people are. So we need to continue to make sure we provide those services. But how do we get out of the crippling debt that we have, which can only get worse if we continue on the path that we are? And again, back to Churchill Falls. This is billions and billions of dollars. Hard to get your head around what $225 billion is. But if you look at just breaking the Churchill Falls contract for the next 17 years, $1 billion a year, any government that runs deficits with that amount of money is not doing their job as a government. So what can we do with that extra, say, $500 million a year in surplus? We can spend it on services. We can certainly spend it on future debt. And we can do things like this government has already done, put money into a future fund to grow that money and to use it for the future. Because I think this is an opportunity not only for people here now, but for future generations, my kids, everybody else's kids, grandkids. I think we can look back at this and say, thank God we were smart with our money and we put it away for future use.
Absolutely. So next we're going to discuss accountability and transparency. So trust in government is always a central issue. So how will you and your party to ensure accountability and transparency when it comes to spending, contracts, and major agreements such as the Churchill Falls?
Yep. So Churchill Falls, the MOU was signed, and not very long after that we were in the House of Assembly. Historic moment in the House of Assembly to debate an MOU, which was just part of the process of moving forward to final agreement. So very early on, this government, and me included, took the approach that any and all questions about that MOU should be asked and should be answered. And I still want people to ask questions, and it's okay to have pushback. Some people have opinions on that, and sometimes the facts are right and sometimes the facts are wrong, and it's important to make sure the facts are corrected so that everybody knows what we're getting into in the future. So openness and accountability, no secrets. Even when you talk about the wildfires, let's tell everybody what the situation is so everybody's on the same page. And I think Newfoundlanders and Labradorians then can make an informed decision about where we are going forward, and that's important. Look, Churchill Falls is not a political deal. It's not a liberal deal. It's a deal for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
Excellent. So last, we're going to address food security. So food insecurity is at historical levels. Statistics Canada reported that in 2024, over 30% of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians lived in food insecure households. So that's about 158,000 people, which is 24,000 more than the year before. What policies will you introduce to ensure that all individuals and families have consistent access to affordable, nutritious food?
So we were in Lewisport last week and we visited a food bank, and the volunteers there are doing a tremendous job making sure that people in their community have access to food. People that can't afford it. And when I talk about fairness, that's not fair. Everybody deserves good quality food. It's an essential part of life, and everybody, as I said, deserves that. So we announced last week an increase of money available to food banks in this province, which I think is important, and I want to thank all of them for the work they're doing. We also increased our grants for people to have community greenhouses. That was a huge success over the last number of years.
Yes.
Money was available and the money was spent because people are interested in getting involved and growing their own food as a community. And we've also increased that funding now for individuals, their own homes, to have access to $750 to start their own maybe backyard greenhouse to grow their own food. We need to work with our harvesters, our fish harvesters, agricultural farmers. This summer was very difficult on farmers because of the drought and the dryness and lack of hay, so we need to work with them to make sure that they have feed for their animals here in Newfoundland and Labrador, so we don't have to worry about supply chains that might break before that stuff gets to Newfoundland and Labrador. So a very important issue.
Absolutely. And so, with the upcoming election, seeing you doing amazing things for our province so far, so, keeping up with that momentum. So at this moment, we're going to give you about a minute and a half or so to kind of talk to your voters. And of course, speak directly to the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. So tell us why you think that you would be the best candidate for the upcoming election.
Yeah, not always easy to talk about yourself like that, but I know that's the job of a politician, to tell people why the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador is the best choice on October 14th. And I think that what I hear from Newfoundlanders and Labradorians is they want their government to focus on healthcare, on affordability, on seniors, and on housing, and on education. And those are the things that I think we do need to focus on and that we will focus on. And what we talked about here today, we've certainly announced over the past 3 weeks issues and ideas and plans and policies that are going to focus on those important issues for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. And I do think, and I know, as I said, this Churchill Falls deal, it's not done yet. There is still work to do. We are the right party to make sure we get a final deal that's great, amazing, fantastic for this province going forward. People have been worried about doing a deal with Quebec, but the deal we have with Quebec right now is not a good deal, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
We can do better,
Yeah.
and Newfoundlanders and Labradorians can deliver and negotiate a good deal for us. We don't have to worry about people on the other side of the negotiating table, because we can look after ourselves and we can do what's best for our province, and I have total faith in our team doing that. I think Newfoundlanders and Labradorians want this deal. They want to move on from the past. They want to get the jobs, the growth, the financial upside out of the Churchill River that we've deserved for so long. So let's take this opportunity. Let's talk about what it means. Let's talk about how we get a good deal, and let's make sure we get what's best for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians going forward. And I think the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador is the party that knows that and believes that, and is with our residents in this province.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Premier, for being here and addressing some issues today. And we wish you all the luck in the upcoming election.
Amazing. Thanks for having me. This has been an unbelievable experience. I'd love to do this for 4 more years, so I do ask voters in Newfoundland and Labrador to make sure they look at our party and when they vote.
Thank you so much. And we'll be right back after this short break.
This is Rogers TV. You're watching Rogers TV St. John's.
Thanks for tuning in to tonight's episode. We want to thank our guest, the Liberal candidate for the upcoming provincial election on October 14th, Premier John Hogan. And don't forget, Rogers TV is going to be broadcasting live on the 14th with the results. And don't forget to vote. Until next time, much love.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
You're watching Rogers TV.
My dad was a railway porter. It was just about the only job a black man could get. But he had big plans for us. Music would be our ticket out of poverty. I knew we couldn't afford that piano, so I practiced twice as hard.
Nice, Daisy. Okay, Oscar, let's hear it.
Turns out, I wasn't half bad. Then I found jazz, or it found me. It wasn't all easy, though. I faced a lot of hate, but I found my stage. They call me the man with 4 hands. Well, I don't know about that, but let's see how far this ticket takes me.
From Montreal to Carnegie Hall and far beyond, Oscar Peterson became one of the most recorded and celebrated jazz musicians of all time.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive.